Does your kick look like that? Or like this? Or like this? Then this video is for you. Come on, let's go. So if you're at any point in your martial arts journey, then you've probably run into one of these pain points. And pain points, I mean mobility, coordination, and balance. These three are the key areas that I find that everybody struggles with at some point in their martial arts journey, whether it be the beginner, the intermediate, or the advanced. And the three basic kicks that we're going to cover today is the front kick, the side kick, and the round kick or turning kick. Without further ado, let's get to it. Now, for instance, something like a side kick, we want to pivot our foot to about 75 degrees backwards, not 90, but 75. The reason why it's a 75-degree angle is that when your foot is slightly sideways, it allows you to hold your balance instead of being on a balance beam. Like imagine how my foot is straight forward like this, and it's just starting to wobble like so. If I turn it sideways, then all of a sudden I have a little bit more weight distribution at the top and at the bottom, allowing me to counteract the weight going left and right. For a round kick, generally speaking, you want to pivot your foot at least 90 degrees, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little bit more. It really depends on the height of the kick. Because if I do a lower kick, I don't actually need to pivot so much. If I do a higher kick, more pivot is actually essential to reach those higher heights. Now for the front kick, it's actually a little bit less. It's going to be about a 45-degree pivot, allowing your hip to actually shoot out in front of you, but not overextending yourself so that your hip starts to turn wide to the side and then you fall forward. We want to actually extend our hip forward and allow the kick to be pushed forward by the hip without fully committing forward and falling forward, say into a punch or into another attack that we just don't want. Now moving on to coordination and how we actually coordinate the rest of the body to actually move with the pivot of our feet. This is where a lot of people actually struggle, because if I tell them, turn your foot to the side, then they'll turn their foot, and hopefully, my hope is that they're going to follow with the rest of their body, but sometimes it just does not work out that way. So what we want to do is we want to think that our foot is the first point of contact on the ground, and the rest of our body is going to follow with that motion. So it's just like if I'm walking. If I'm walking from point A to point B, I point my toes in the direction I want to go. But then the moment I change my foot in a direction, then I'm going to change my footwork and I'm going to change the direction I'm going. Same thing as I'm throwing a kick. I want to actually direct my feet in the direction I want to go. Some kicks, obviously, like a side kick, your foot is pointing in the opposite direction. But if you think of it as a linear line, you're pointing your energy and your footwork towards a target so that you can push your energy forward towards that target. Now let's move on to the coordination part. It's how we get the rest of the body to move after we've done the pivot. And the pivot, like I said, is the most important part, but sometimes you pivot your foot and the rest of the body just does not follow because you haven't coordinated it and you haven't used all those muscles together at the same time to do this particular motion. So the best advice for all of this is obviously we practice and we get the motions better and better by actually getting the repetition in. But there are certain things that you can do, some certain hacks. A hip drill I really like to teach people is you put your foot up and either someone holds it or you put it up on a level that's about as high as your hip. And then you just practice the pivot on the ground, but you also pivot your hips to the side, imitating the rotation for a round kick. That motion there is really key for people to learn how to roll their hip over with the pivot of their body. And if you do this enough times, you'll gain the confidence to actually throw the kick on the bag and not hurt your leg, hurt your hip, hit your knee, any one of those. Because I've seen a lot of them where people like don't pivot and then they bust their knee, or they don't pivot enough and then they open up their hips too wide, or they do something and it really just does not end well for them. And either they're really discouraged to come back to a class and train again, or they're injured and then it takes longer for them to come back and train again. Another drill that I really like to teach people is the switch 1-2 with the opposite hand in front. A lot of people actually just struggle doing this motion in general because it's not really a motion that they're used to, but they are if they think about what they do every single day, which is walking. When you walk, you put the opposite hand in front of the foot that's in front. Now, when we're doing the switch drill, you're doing the exact same thing, but now you're just hopping in the same spot and trying to do it repetitively without messing up. That's where people a lot of times make mistakes because they associate this exercise with something completely different than what they're actually doing on a day-to-day basis, which is walking. Now, how this drill actually helps people is that when you do a lot of kickboxing or kicking in general, you are doing those backward motions where one foot's in front, but the opposite hand's in front. And then you would switch rapidly, but the rapid movement that you're doing in a kick is actually the switching motion that you're doing on the spot. And then when I tell people that, and then they start to kick, then they understand, okay, so there's like a front and a back motion, and I'm always doing that when I'm doing any kind of strike. All right, so let's fix that last pain point, which was mobility. First of all, what is mobility, and what's the difference between mobility and flexibility? So flexibility is the ability for our muscles to elongate, to get longer, like a rubber band expanding, versus mobility is the ability for our joints to move in and out of ranges of motion. But then how far can we actually go in those ranges of motion? Like if I were to hold my arm up at this highest point, that's reaching the furthest point of its range of motion. And it's not incredibly hard. I do that on a day-to-day basis. I raise my arm up, I raise my arm down. It's pretty general. But then if I were to do that with my leg, that changes it. And sort of kicking and holding the leg out, that takes a little bit more strength in areas that most people are not strong on, which is the side of our hips, the hip flexors in the front, and the glutes in the back, where we don't actually raise our leg up like that normally, unless you're a martial artist. So mobility, we want buttery smooth joints that are able to move in and out of ranges of motion without any struggle. So how do we get better at our mobility? Well, simply put, you do more of it, you hold longer, you hold higher. Now, that sounds pretty general and simple information, but you think about it in weightlifting terms. You want to get stronger, you have to lift heavier. And obviously, there's little things that we do along the way to slowly progress ourselves up there. But mobility works the same way. It's strengthening the muscles and the tendons, ligaments around the area that we are aiming, which is our joint. And we're trying to make that area stronger, not the muscles specifically. It's the ligaments and the tendons right at that joint. Now, those don't actually get trained a lot in weight training. In weight training, you're focusing a lot more on the muscles, but then in mobility, we're going to be focusing on the endpoints of the muscles. Let's take a side leg raise, for instance. We want to get better at this. Some simple things that you can do is set a time that you think you can make it to. A good standard time is 30 seconds. So hold your leg out for 30 seconds, keep your body straight, your head up high, squeeze the entire side of your body and hold for 30 seconds. Now we can add difficulty to this by either one, moving our leg, which makes the weight go up and down, which makes it a little bit harder for our leg to hold on and imitates what's happening when we're throwing a kick. Another method is we add weight to it, such as an ankle weight or something that we can have on top. Maybe someone's hand goes on top and pushes our leg down. That's adding extra difficulty. And then the last way is that we make it longer. So instead of 30 seconds, we'll put it up to 45 or to 60. And the whole goal would be to hold your leg longer and higher and hold it in different positions. So not just straight off to the side, it could be swinging back and forth. It could be going up and down. You could be doing multiple kicks in the air. The best way that we can get better at any of these things, regardless of what skill level you are at, is either one, we have a coach who is eyeballing us and watching our every move and gives you feedback, or we have this great thing called our phone that we can actually capture video with and either watch it ourselves or, again, ask somebody else to watch it. It doesn't have to be your coach. It could be people online in a community. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something, or you maybe got a review on something that you forgot, and that it really does help you either with yourself or with someone that you know is struggling. Send this video to them, or take the information that I gave you and then give it to them so that they can improve themselves in their martial arts journey. I'm always here for you guys. I want you guys to comment and like and subscribe. It really helps me out and then helps me deliver these videos to you. So I really appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Have a good one. Peace out.